Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Welcome, Impactful Parents. Today we're going to be talking about divorce and what people get wrong when going through the divorce process. I know that if you are in this situation today, and yes, I have been there before too, you're going to want to hear this episode because we have a wonderful guest. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos, and I'm founder of The Impactful Parent. And I help parents of school-age children who want to be one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that's taught every grade from preschool through high school. And today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today's special guest is Nicole Sodoma. Now, Nicole is the founder of Sodoma Law, and it is a sought-after source on all things divorce. And her book, called Please Don't Say You're Sorry, helps readers navigate the challenges of divorce with insight and humor. Now, today I want Nicole on the Impactful Parent stage to discuss what people get wrong about custody and alimony and property division. And lastly, to give us some tools that actually work when we're going through this kind of breakup. So I'm excited to chat with Nicole today. Let's just dive on in. A lot of times we have this failed family burden that the parents experience. I mean, we just, the guilt where many parents feel that they have broken their children's lives. That guilt is so immense. And some parents even refuse to divorce and instead condemn themselves to many more years of unhappiness because they feel so guilty about breaking up their family. So what do you say to those parents that feel like this? What should they be doing or thinking instead?
I just did a post on this after reading The Prince of Tides by Pat Conroy. I've never felt so strongly about something ever. It was not our children's choice, but the idea of feeling guilty about not giving them what you thought was going to be this perfect family, this traditional intact household. Like, you are providing them love, and maybe what's happening is exactly what was meant to happen. And this was an opportunity for you as a parent to show them who you are, how much you love them, put them into the world as successful humans. You would be so surprised at the success stories that I've heard. You now get to show them what a loving relationship might look like, how you are as a parent versus how you were as a parent in a household that wasn't happy, that was full of conflict, that wasn't maybe meant to be. Whatever the narrative is that you want to put out is going to be the narrative that you follow, right? If you say nothing, other people are going to create the narrative for you. And that is where the guilt comes from. I mean, maybe it's here, maybe it's inside, but it's a shift in mindset. And you are in control of that. You could sit quiet and let other people create the narrative and control it, or you can realize what is possible on the other side.
Now, I want to get into correcting common mistakes. And the first one I'm going to dive into is the messenger mistake, because we often see parents use school-age children as these conduits for information, like, tell dad I'm picking you up at 5 o'clock, even if it's innocent like that. It doesn't even have to be anything like extremely important, but we're using kids as messengers. Why is this seemingly small habit so toxic? And how does it impact a child's sense of safety?
Well, it's a slippery slope because you might not even realize how simple the message is. You might see it as simple, but the child might not. You don't know how the other parent's going to respond when you say, hey, dad, mom says she's going to be here at 5 o'clock. Even something that seems as simple as that could mean something different to the child could be received differently than you intended or have unintended consequences, as we say, for the other parent. If, hardly ever are two parents coming together in the same emotional state. And so recognizing that, right from the beginning, be careful not to use the children as messengers. Emotional support, be careful about parentification and putting too much on their shoulders. And sometimes I just don't think parents even recognize what's happening because they think that their children are old enough to handle it.
The emotional support thing is so big too, and it's such a slippery slope to get into, especially if you have a child who seemingly doesn't like the other parent, which that is an illusion in a lot of ways. I don't want to get too much into that, but because no matter what their child's saying, like, I don't like this, and they complain
Yes.
about the other parent, they still love that parent. I mean, literally, that parent could be even abusive, and they still love that parent because kids are just wired that way.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up because so many parents will fall into that trap. Well, oh, you don't like them either. So the spiraling of the bashing begins. And really, that's so detrimental to the child. Again, just because they may on the surface not like that other parent, but deep down they still love them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, it's hard for one parent to see it because when you've created a loyalty bind, even if it's not intentional, you create a loyalty bind or you have alignment with the child that is different than the child might have with the other parent. You believe something, you've created something that might not be true. One of the common mistakes that I see is refusing professional support. So whether it's listening to experts like you, parenting coordinators, therapists, your custody evaluators, trauma informed professionals, whoever that is, it even could be a pastor or someone that you trust, but someone who has the knowledge who can help you navigate this because you might not even see the alignment that's been created between you and the child. And you might think that the child's old enough to handle, hey, listen, if you might say something bad about the other parent, and you might not even realize that one, it was bad, that it was inappropriate, that your child's too young to hear something like that, the impact it has on that child, and how it could be repeated to the other parent.
Another mistake that a lot of parents make is the overcorrection. So after a split, parents often feel guilty and become either the fun parent or the
Yes.
yes parent. So that's what I want to talk about because what are the long-term dangers of abandoning household rules for the sake of being liked during the divorce?
This drives me crazy. The idea, we used to call it Disney Dad, when you had the traditional secondary parent who worked full time, was considered the provider or the breadwinner, and not engaged, and then all of a sudden wants to be engaged in every capacity, and really is starting from a different place than the traditional nurturer. So a, it's as if that's bad. So I always used to say, like when a client would come in and I'd say, and it was a dad who was in that traditional role, I'd ask questions like, what's favorite food? Who's the pediatrician? Who's the dentist? Like, what's the sleeping schedule? All of the questions that really are about the day to day. Because if we stay focused on the best interest standard and we look at it in terms of, okay, if we are going to start from a place of true joint custody, of true joint 50-50, you, dad, I want you to shift your mindset because mom is not your babysitter. Mom is an equal parent. You are an equal parent. And I want you to think through that. You are fully capable of doing that. But I don't want you to do it because you think you're supposed to do it. I want you to be there in an equal capacity, in an equal capacity because you can be. And so it's this principal ego thing as opposed to what's actually in the best interest of the child. And I want you to feel that way if that's what you want to do.
I just want to applaud that because it is such an empowering place for dads, and they don't take it so often. I think that's the mistake a lot of dads make. And I love that you're encouraging that because it is one of the biggest complaints that the mom will start to say after the divorce is I'm still managing all the schedules. I'm still making all the doctor's appointments, and it's it's something that they're like it's not really 50-50. And what an empowering thing for the dad to do, to step up in that capacity and start learning these little nuances about the day to day that aren't necessarily that fun and not necessarily doesn't seem important, but they are really important parts of your kid's life that a lot of dads check out on when they're actually married, but should be responsible for in the divorce, and after the divorce. So I love that so much because it puts dads in a way better place. They're so much more in the know when they can do that. And just so great for dads. I want so many dads out here listening to this podcast right now to be like, yes, please do this. It's so awesome.
And I think that often, dads start from a place of resentment and it shifts to mom when dad says he wants to be involved and then really isn't involved. And it starts with dad saying, I want to be involved, but mom doesn't make space for me. And then therefore, I mean, there's so many narratives that are happening in those moments and so much resentment can build. And so figuring out how you're going to communicate, figuring out, I love the idea of having a shared email account for teachers, for parents, for coaches, all things. Use one, uh, you know, um, online web-based account that you both can access. You both can look at the calendar. It's not just on one parent. One parent can manage it, but both parents can add to the calendar. You can communicate like it's one email coming to both parents from coaches, from teachers. So you're getting the information at the same time in real time. You're not spoon feeding each other, you're communicating. And then think about how that impacts the child. You're no longer just saying, like, how was your day? You're saying, hey, I saw that you had a test today. How did it go? And you're not relying on the other parent to tell you that. You're relying on the information you're getting directly from the source. And how empowering. And I mean, that is the way it should be.
Yes, yes. I love that. A mic drop to that idea because every family should have that. Now, in the age of social media,
Mm.
everything feels public, and some parents feel the need to display their lives for others to see online. And then some parents want to prove to the world or their ex that everything is fine. And others are just fishing for sympathy. And yet, others use social media to vent. Just that's how people are. So, what's the number one mistake that parents make regarding their public divorce persona that eventually ends up hurting the kids?
Oh, this is such a good question because even the most harmless posts on social media can come back and hurt you, can come back and be damaging to you, could be read by the children. And, you know, um, I am very careful about my social media posts. And I too have found that even something incredibly harmless can be misinterpreted by the other parent. And so I'm very careful about this, and I really encourage my clients to also be careful and our listeners because one, it could be used as evidence. Two, it can be interpreted completely differently. It can also be reviewed by other parents. It can be reviewed by your children, depending on your privacy settings, photos, comments, indirect references to the other parent. Um, oh, new relationships, you know, uh, I remember the days on social media where you could check in to a place when you arrived. That I'm not sure that everybody remembers, but that was a long time ago. There's so many things on social media that can go wrong. And so I really encourage parents not to post anything if your instinct is like, should I post this? Then don't. Just should I check with a friend to see if this is going to be damaging? No, don't do it. Another tip, and it's not mine, but it's from one of my colleagues. She says when you send an email or you make a post, whatever the last sentence is, take it out. Just take out the last sentence. It doesn't need to be there. And inevitably, she is right. And so I also want to encourage people to think about that. So I really don't want you to post. It's really not going to help in the long run. If you think you shouldn't post it, don't do it. And remember that it can be used in a way that you never intended.
Yeah. Now, we're told that children need consistency, all the time. That's what the kids need. They need consistency. I say it all the time as a parenting coach. But does this mean that both households must have identical rules, like bedtimes are the same, screen times are the same, chores are the same? Or is it more important for children to learn how to adapt to these different environments?
Okay, there is no perfect answer. As a mom, I mean, it is so hard to know that your child is going to sleep at one time at your house and another time at the other parent's house. But ideally, we want some of those rules to apply. Ideally, you create, whatever those rules are, you stick them to the refrigerator and they get followed at both households. But that is not likely going to happen. So long as you're not um, disciplining the children when they're with you into a time that would carry over into the other parents' parenting time, that's really important. But also recognizing that your children adapt to the circumstances they're in. And this is also like really age specific because when you have smaller children, those routines matter a ton more than when you have older children. So I guess, the big picture is what is appropriate, what is possible, and recognizing that it's probably not going to be the same in both houses and to pick your battles.
And now I want to talk to you about what's the biggest mistake that parents make when they see the X out about in, because it's going to happen. Sports, hobbies, school events often become the front line for scheduling conflicts and a place where we just can't avoid seeing the X. Like you just can't. Like they're going to be in the same place at, the graduations and the school events, the dances. So this is where many arguments begin. What advice do you have for parents when they know they have to share these moments with the ex and they're going to see them?
The people who tend to fare best in high conflict cases where there is conflict between the parents, where it's uncomfortable, maybe it's uncomfortable for you, maybe it's uncomfortable for them or even the children. But those parents who fare best are the ones who are the most consistent, the most stable, the most credible, the most organized, the ones that are child focused. It is not the loudest, the most aggressive. It is not the parent who feels like they need to be seen. It is that balanced, stable, reliable parent. Those are the people that are going to tend to fare best in those circumstances. So when you are engaged in that environment, ask yourself, which one am I showing up as? Because you'll sense it right away. It's really difficult at some of these events. Well, I should say, it's not difficult for everyone. Uh, do I sit next to the other parent? Will the other parent sit next to me? Are you doing that for yourself? Are you doing it for your children? Like, what is best for the child in that circumstances, and what is best for me? And I remember growing up as a child of divorce and being at my graduation, and I'm over 50. And I remember being at my high school graduation and wondering if my dad was in the room. And I could see my mom, second row, but I couldn't find my dad. To this day, I don't know whether he was there. But what an impact that is on me. And so I want you to be thinking about it from your child's perspective, but also like what is healthiest for me? Because I think sometimes those are different answers. But overall, remember that the parent that tends to fare best is going to be the one that is reliable, stable, credible, organized. And so be that person for your kid.
That's very powerful. That, and I just want to repeat it because I think people need to hear it again. That you need to walk into that room and immediately think of the perspective of the child. What would
Yes.
be the best thing for them? And if sitting next to the ex in that particular day would be the best thing for them, because yes, they're easier to find and scan and see. I'm thinking, but to myself, even um, my daughter just had a school play, and I knew she'd be looking for both of us. And immediately, I saved a seat for him so that she wouldn't have to do the scanning thing like that you're talking about. Where are they at? And even to
Yes.
look in two different places. Um, was it a little uncomfortable? I mean, in the beginning, it was years ago. I've been divorced now for many years, so it wasn't too bad anymore. We're kind of used to this stuff, but it took a while to get through that. And I want to acknowledge to parents that it's not about you in those circumstances. And sometimes we have to deal with that discomfort. And yeah, that discomfort is so normal. But
Yes. What are you
you're
willing
going
to
to walk away.
sacrifice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are. It is a sacrifice, but you're going to walk away that you know that you took the higher road, and it's okay. You're the adult. You can play with that discomfort a little bit better than your child, and having that kind of, sadness that they can't find their dad in there and don't, that's a real, what you just said, that's a real thing that happens, and you are not an anomaly that happened to you. So to remember that kind of in your brain in the back there as you're walking into that room. So powerful of a statement. Thank you for that.
Well, one of the reasons I actually wrote the book was I'd been a divorce attorney for 20 years, and there were all these things that my clients had not told me. And that would be an example of one of the things that I had never imagined, that you would always love your children more than you dislike your ex. And that is the way that you can show up for your kids, is being willing to sacrifice that moment because you know it's going to make it easier on them. So now I have the question for you. What happens when the other parent refuses to sit near you?
Yeah, well, and you can't control somebody else,
That's
but
right.
I feel like you did your part. You
Yes.
took the high road. You put the, you opened the door.
Yes.
And there's only so much that you can do, and after that you have to let it go. But you make that effort. You control what you can control.
And your kids know that. Your kids know that you're willing to put forth the effort. Your kids know that you might sit where there are some open seats so that that is an option. And I do. I think it's really I think it's really important, and we do see it in sports, and we see it at graduations and at weddings and family events. But it does take two emotionally mature humans to be able to make that sort of thing happen. And you're right, you can only be responsible for the choices you make. You can't be responsible for the choices the other parent makes.
And I don't want to get too much excuse me, into the parenting plan, because I want, if people are resonating with you today on this episode, to reach out to you for more technical help and advice on things like that. But I do have one question about the parenting plan, and
Okay.
that's for a parent currently drafting it or it's coming soon. What is one hidden clause or consideration for school age kids that they'll thank themselves for including 5 years from now?
uh, a couple of things come to mind. A lot of parents love a right of first refusal provision. meaning if the parent that has custodial time is going to be gone for a certain period of time, that they would always call the other parent before they get childcare. Really think hard about whether you want that provision in. And really, if you are going to put that provision in, be realistic about how long you or the other parent would not be available during that time. So is it an overnight or is it 6 hours? Is that dinner and a movie? I want my parents to be thinking about 5 years from now and not just about right now, because there is a likelihood that you might meet another person, strong likelihood. They may have a family and you may be trying to blend. And so that right of first refusal provision can get really messy and create unnecessary conflict. The second one that, and this is depending on how you both are as parents, this seems really nuanced, but instead of writing in your parenting plan that you will pick up the children at blank, the other person will pick up the children at blank. I would say you will be responsible for picking up. And the difference is that it might not be you. It might be a babysitter. It might be another parent, a step parent, an older sibling. It might not be you. And so if you're dealing with someone who is high conflict and really wants to narrow down and make sure that there's this black and white, not going to change it, you must follow the order, that can really open the door for conflict.
I would agree as somebody who's divorced. So those are really good suggestions.
The idea that we stick black and white, like that we are black and white, our kids get older, and life changes, and you don't go back to the courtroom every time there's a change, big or small. And so you or hire someone. We don't want to be on payroll until your child's 18. And so there has to be the ability to have some wiggle room in there somehow. And so no attorney, no mediator, no parenting coordinator, we're never going to be able to fill in all the gaps. So just being careful about how the words you use and how they can be defined, and making it flexible enough to make sense 5 years from now is really paramount.
And if people are resonating with our episode today and they want to find out more about you, well, first of all, you have this practice, which is amazing. And quickly, please tell us, how would people get a hold of you for that if they were really trying to get into it? And then you also have this book, which I'll get to after. What about the practice first?
I started Sodoma Law in 2008. It's been 18 years. We are 50 plus attorneys and known for our family law practice. And we consult everywhere, but our locations are in the Carolinas. And I still love getting up every single day and doing what I do. So, and I think I speak for my colleagues as well. We are 7 offices, looking to open an 8th here in the next few months. You can find us at the Sodoma Way or Sodoma Law. Those are our 2 handles on just about every platform. And for me, you can find me at Nicole Sodoma at just about every platform.
And then tell me more about this book you have for the people who maybe they're before or after this divorce or don't live in the Carolinas and they still resonated today. You have this book called Please Don't Say You're Sorry. What can readers find inside of this?
So it was divided into 3 sections because I'm a marriage loving divorce attorney. So we start with marriage. And then if we cannot survive that, whether it takes 2 to say I do and 1 to say I don't. And so if you find yourself in a situation where your marriage is not working, I want you to know ahead of time. So it's going to be marriage, separation, and divorce. And at the end of, and I think, the feedback that I love the most is that it is relatable. I am relatable. I experienced it firsthand. I've got all these different hats that I wear, and I love making sure that people are prepared. And so At the end of each chapter, there are going to be some hard questions. If I could have a side hustle, I would be reading for Audible on a regular basis. But I did read my own Audible, and I've gotten great feedback on that Audible. So it's a great opportunity to hear it in my voice. Hopefully, my humor makes you pause and give yourself a break as you listen. And it was really great putting it together. My experience from wearing all those different hats.
Now, thank you so much for being on my episode today, Nicole. And I end each episode with an impactful parent question. And basically, this question just says, hey, whatever topic we're talking about today, how do we become a more impactful parent? So, my impactful parent question to you is, you talk about divorcing well. So, what is one specific boundary that a parent can set today, not with their ex, but with themselves, to ensure their children thrive in this next chapter of the parent's life?
You do not need to respond in real time to any text, email, message, OFW, statement. It is not required that you respond in real time unless it's an emergency. And so that is a boundary that you can set for yourself. And guess what? You are the only one in your way. And so, as an impactful parent, that is a choice and a boundary you get to make. And yes, we're all going to be guilty of it on occasion, but you will so much more appreciate your life as a parent if you recognize that pause. That place between stimulus and response is yours, and what you do with it is entirely up to you.
Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.